Hello and welcome to another Innovators in Education episode. I'm Mike Pennington and I'm here in North Green Screen Studios. Our episodes are made possible by a grant from the Nord Family Foundation. And our purpose is really simple. It's kind of a conversation-based web series, and we want to collect the best things happening in education around the country and today around the world, which is pretty cool, and talk about just the philosophy behind change in education, and the practicality of actually putting that into place in a school or a classroom. And we hope that you take the best of what you see here and go back and actually make change happen. That's what this is all about. And I am joined today by Prakash Paudel from LumenEd. And we're going to talk about exactly what LumenEd is, or LumenEd. I see ED and I think of ED. And we're going to talk about what this is, and it's an educational tech startup company, but with a social conscious, and that's what we're really going to talk about today is how technology plays a part in a classroom and how we can connect kids in a very social way, back to that empathy that we've talked about. If you've watched the last 4 or 5 episodes that we've done, we always kind of come back to that. So Prakash, I'll let you do the intros of exactly where LumenEd came from and how you got to this, if you want to, please, and welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So LumenEd is something I started with 4 other students at Oberlin College when we were sophomores, and originally it started out as an initiative to bring digital content, in the form of Khan Academy or other online resources to classrooms in developing countries that had never had access to that content before. And the inspiration was simple. I'm from Nepal. 2 of my co-founders are from India, and coming to college in the States, all of a sudden we saw all these great digital resources that students had access to here, but growing up back home, we knew that the majority of students did not have access to those resources. So originally we started by just taking a projector and a set of speakers into a classroom in New Delhi, India, and just testing how that worked for the kids, watching the Khan Academy videos. We taught them English grammar, world geography, and it was quickly, really clear that having the visual aid, having that access to technology, not just for the students, but also for the teacher, was really powerful and really lacking as well. So, running from that, we've developed what we call the Bright Orange Box, and it's basically a smart projector that can work in any classroom, regardless of any access to infrastructure. So that means it can work without reliable electricity and internet as well.
Wow.
And really from there, over the past 2 years, the ideas evolved from just a one-way system of us delivering content into the classroom to a 2-way system where classrooms can also, feed back their own videos and their own content back to the rest of the world. So with regards to that, we set up this video Penpal program that connects kids in 2 completely different geographies, cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds, to speak to each other through the course of the year. So right now we're focusing on connections between classrooms in the US and classrooms over in New Delhi, India. But eventually this is a connection we want to build between any 2 communities in the world.
Wow, so we got a lot to dissect here. So let's start at the very beginning. You talked about growing up in India and going to school there, and my guess is the majority of the educators that'll watch this are administrators. I think American teachers, we have a lot on top of us, and there's a lot of things going on, but we don't really know that whole world impact. We hear about the great countries where teachers are put up on pedestals. So let's talk a little bit about what the structure of education looks like in India, so we can really, I think it'll give good background for how this project is going to evolve and go. So how long did you go to school in India?
So I actually grew up in a few different places. I was born in Nepal, so I went to school there through kindergarten. Then I went to Bangladesh, which is right nearby, and I went to school there for 11 years, and I also went to school in India for a year. But the education system in all 3 of those countries is very similar, and the problems in education are also very similar.
So what's the biggest problem in education to a country like a developing world country like India?
I think it really comes down to just the lack of resources, in the form of teachers or books or just opportunities for students. And it really makes it a big challenge for any organization going to tackle any problems in that system, because it doesn't come down to just how can we refine this teaching method. It's really how do you bring, just bare minimum resources into an environment that lacks so much. So one example of like a tangible problem I would give is just the teachers that that are employed in the schools. One of the big problems in India is a lot of teachers just don't show up to class. So
it's a funny problem. Well, not funny, but
yeah.
So are they considered like public employees, like a teacher would be here? Is it a government-run educational system?
Yeah, so these problems are most prevalent in the government-run schools.
Okay.
And it as far as the severity of it, it's sometimes you have teachers who don't come in for half the year. So,
wow.
We were, when we were doing our pilot program last summer, we were over in New Delhi, and some of the classrooms in the schools that we would work in, you would just see the kids wandering the halls because they had no supervisor, they had no teacher for the day.
Wow.
So when a teacher decides not to come in, there's absolutely no learning happening for the kids. So that's just one of the many problems in education.
Is it a year-round school? What does their school calendar kind of look like compared to ours?
Yes, it's year-round, but it starts earlier and it ends, so it would start in May, and then they do have a summer holiday, but then it ends in April. So there's a bit of overlap, but it runs with the calendar over there rather than the calendar here.
Sure, that makes complete sense. So we talked about the problem of teachers not showing up for class and trying to get past those, and it really sounds like some schools in America, they put devices in, and it's where are we going to plug these in to recharge them? We're talking about classrooms that don't even have electricity, possibly. Like you said, there's no Wi-Fi, so that became a problem that we'll talk about in the future. But how is it that you chose or found teachers to start this process of connecting classes before we really get into what that looks like?
Yeah, so in India, we were lucky to work with a really, one of the leading NGOs working in education there, Teach for India.
Okay.
And they're related with Teach for America and the rest of the Teach for All network. And what's fantastic about Teach for India is, unlike a lot of the problems you face with teachers in, your normal government school, these are recent graduates, young, enthusiastic teachers most of the time, who just really have a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy to bring into the classroom. And that's something that's pretty rare in government schools in India. So when you have a great enthusiastic teacher in a low-income environment where the standards otherwise are very low, there's a lot of room, a lot of positive outcomes that come out of that. And Teach for India's had a lot of success, and they're also very open to trying out new things.
That's good,
such as what we're doing. And it's been a great partnership for us because it lets us experiment with what really is the best method of bringing technology into the classroom while working with the teachers who are most willing to try it and most willing to push the boundaries.
Yeah, and I would argue we probably have a problem in this country with unenthusiastic teachers as well sometimes, but that's just me talking. So let's talk about the orange box. I have it up on the screen here behind us. What is the orange box, and how did this first model come to be?
Yeah, so the orange box is a smart projector that is designed to work in developing world classrooms that may lack internet or electricity. So it's got a pico projector on the front. It has a camera on the back, so it allows any classroom to play and record content.
That's awesome.
And to bypass the electricity and the internet, it's got a large battery inside and a 3G chip as well, so you can hook it up to any cellular network that you have access to.
So it's a completely self-contained idea then?
Yes.
We're really looking at something that doesn't need any outside auxiliary plugs or anything else to function.
Yes. This is designed to really be a standalone unit so that really all you need in a classroom is just a wall to project onto. So it doesn't have to be connected to the internet, connected to electricity. You don't even need a proper traditional classroom as we might understand it. It's literally, do you have a wall to project onto? Then you have a way to show digital content to your students.
So who built the first box?
So the first box was built mostly by one of my co-founders, Thomas Creek.
Okay.
And we did it ourselves, and it was very challenging. We realized one lesson I think we learned with that is we never want to hand-build a box again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting because originally our plan was to build it over here and take it there, but you know, with timing, we ended up trying to build the boxes over in New Delhi, and we quickly learned that that's a nightmare in terms of finding the parts that you need, you know, just for the box. So, you know, we were delayed with our program, but at the end, you know, in the middle of August, we were able to get 6 of the prototypes in 6 of the classrooms across the city.
Wow, that's pretty impressive to actually go out and build it yourself. Now, the plan is eventually, and we'll talk about this more later on, but to be able to manufacture these at a little bit more of a reasonable and non-hands-on approach so that we can really connect more classrooms, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good thing. So we have this orange box, you have some teachers and some classrooms established. You're in New Delhi for the launch of this, correct? What happened that first day? What was that like when you took that orange box with you and were able to sit down with a teacher and with a class of students?
It was pretty amazing because as soon as we entered the school, all the students were like, you know, automatically like, what's going on? What's happening? And like, we were swarmed. We were absolutely swarmed. And then, you know, they were like, who are these guys? What is that orange box in the hand?
Sure.
And then when we sat it down and, you know, started playing content in the classroom, it was like, all of a sudden, every student was, you know, intensely looking at the screen, just like almost in awe of what was going on. And, you know, I think the interesting thing with that is oftentimes with technology in the classroom, you know, that's what I describe as the novelty factor. It's your first time seeing something new inside the classroom. You know, I did it every time the teacher would bring out a TV, you know, when I was younger, I'd be intensely concentrated on that. But one thing we found through our pilot program is, you know, that didn't stop. It wasn't just a novelty factor. Our teachers were using the box for the whole 6 months that we ran our pilot. And it was basically on a daily basis throughout the day.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, probably, you know, the most powerful thing, more than just the first experience the students had.
And that was the first piece of tech in that classroom, in that building? I mean...
Yes, for most of our classrooms, that was the first time they had any technology in the classroom.
So that's pretty impressive. So you definitely get that wow factor. There's a great picture here so you can see. I mean, it projects really, really well. And when we're talking about a classroom without electricity, this is astounding to be able to get an image up there that looks that good and that clear.
Yeah, this is actually one of our teachers, Anurag Gupta, who is teaching, I think it's English grammar to his 3rd graders. And it's really cool because you just see this orange box on the table and, you know, just chalk next to it. And there's really nothing else that is connected, but you get this beautiful, clear picture that just is useful for so many teachers and so many lack access to it.
So the first day you get in, the kids are excited by the tech and by this idea. How did the teacher then start using this? I mean, did you guys have to go in and kind of pre-plan, or was it, let's just get in there and see what's going to happen?
It was very much, let's just get in there and see what's going to happen, because you know, the teachers have their lesson plans. They know what they have to do for the day. So by putting this box in the classroom, we don't want to change that. We want the teachers to stay on track. But it was, in terms of what they showed on the box, basically any content, you know, that they wanted to show, they could put it in a USB drive that we provided.
Oh, okay, cool.
Slot it into the box, and it would show up on the navigation for the box. So it's basically works like any media center you might have. You just like browse through, you know, based on grade level, language, subject, and you can play your videos.
Go through and do what you got to do. That's pretty cool. And I should mention too, because I kind of glazed over it, but you guys were college students, and when you came up with this idea.
Yes.
And the last people that we've talked to, the last 5 people, have all been teachers, and we talk about student ownership and kids leaving an impact for the next generation of learners. You guys are actually doing that. And I might have glazed over too much, but what was the motivation? How did you decide that this was the way that you were going to make a difference?
Honestly, it wasn't. I don't think it was something that happened immediately. I think it was very much we had an idea, and we just, you know, we all cared about education back home and just the problems with that. But over the past 2 years, I think as the ideas evolved, our understanding has also evolved, and our mission and motivation has evolved. So it's gone from let's do something to just assist with education, in the developing world and in South Asia in particular, to what is lacking in global education and how can we do something powerful to change that. So moving forward, it's really about what is the biggest impact we can make with the fewest resources. And so far it's been pretty great, but we're setting ourselves for higher sights, and we really want to reach as many students as possible.
That's pretty awesome. And we talked about teachers having this box and using it with curriculum and inside the classroom. Let's change focus a little bit and talk about the idea of the Penpal program and how you're connecting classrooms from, and I got a picture that we put up here of, let's say, Detroit, Michigan to New Delhi, which is one of the great pictures you brought in. So what is the Penpal program?
Yeah, so the Penpal program is something we came up with as a way to connect two sets of students that would never interact otherwise.
Okay.
So on one side we have schools in the US,
Yep.
and the other side we have our classrooms in New Delhi. And what it is it's a weekly video exchange where each classroom records a short video and just shares it through the box, or in the case of the US, through their iPads or smartphones,
Yep.
whatever they have access to us, and then we send it over to their partner classroom.
Okay, awesome.
And every week, it goes on through the whole school year. And in terms of what the students are sharing, it normally starts with, let me give a tour of my classroom, or let me give a tour of the school, and then like what I like to do for fun. But then it goes beyond that to really, what I want to be when I grow up, what it's like at home, what it's like outside, the classroom. And, a neat example is for students who are sharing, where they get their groceries. Here in the US, we have students showing Trader Joe's, walking in.
These huge places with everything in the world.
Huge places, well organized.
Yeah.
It's a very different atmosphere than what the kids in India show when they show the local market there, and it's sprawling with stalls everywhere. It's a bit of a maze to navigate, but it's a very interesting difference. And without having the exposure, having the interaction, there's really no way these kids would know of the existence of these different types of markets. And it is one thing to learn it, see it in a textbook or hear it from your teacher, but seeing another kid who's just like you and very similar in some ways describe an environment that they live in being so different, it's just really powerful.
Yeah, I taught 7th grade history, and it was world history, and you're right, the textbooks can talk about what a bazaar looks like, with these great terminologies the textbooks use, or what those open markets were 2,000 years ago, and I could talk to my class about something like the West Side Market in Cleveland, which doesn't even really approach what an actual world market looks like in a country that doesn't have a developed city like Cleveland. What's the reaction of the students on both ends? I mean, what are the teachers saying? How is that affecting, I guess, their views? It's
been pretty exciting. Every time we speak with our teachers, the students, they tell us that the students are always like, when do we get our video back?
Cool.
It's a weekly conversation, but the students, as soon as they record their video, and they love seeing themselves on screen, then they get really excited just waiting in anticipation for their reply. And the neat thing about the program that we didn't really anticipate right off the bat is we thought it was really just about the cultural exchange and the interaction. But speaking with the teachers, it's a lot more than that in terms of planning what you're going to say, and it really builds a lot of soft skills for the students. So, they have to think critically, come up with what they want to show. There's a strict 2 to 3 minute time limit. So you have to be able to efficiently show what you want to show that week. And the students, they get together in groups, they come up with ideas, and then they got to actually go on camera and speak out loud. So there's a lot of different skills that maybe, you wouldn't see measured on a test score or something like that. But these are very important skills that you can build just, through the program and just doing this amazing global exchange.
Yeah, and like you said, it's seeing a culture and students and communicating with kids in other countries in near real time is a pretty amazing thing. Now, how long, when you put the orange box in a classroom, how long is the entire program for those two classrooms? They connect all year, a couple months? Because I know the calendars are different.
Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. We push for all year, but that turns out to be September through April, just
Okay.
because of the restrictions of the school year. That's the overlapping time period. It comes out to between a 15 to 20 week program. So students get to exchange a lot of videos, and by the end, they get, they're pretty sad to see it end. So.
Yeah, I imagine that's a huge piece of their day that all of a sudden goes. How are the teachers reacting to this? Do you see it as a positive influence on them? They feel burdened by it. I don't know. What have you seen with the people you've worked with?
Yeah, I think when we first started this program with the system we had, it was a bit difficult for our teachers because we didn't really know what we wanted them to do, and we kind of left it very open-ended. And there were some challenges. Some teachers would be a few weeks late because it's just like, they have a lot going on or something some week. But for next year, we've simplified it down to, this is a program that's going to take you 1 hour a week.
Okay.
So it's not supposed to, we're not trying to overhaul your curriculum,
Yep.
change the way you teach world geography or anything like that. It's just something you spend an hour a week doing with your kids, and it's, in terms of what you share, it's really up to you. It depends what you're learning in your curriculum right now, what your kids want to share, what your Penpal partners shared last week. So
Yeah.
the teachers, I think, have, it's just as amazing for them because they get to cover all these topics that they might normally cover by making kids read from the book through these interactions. Like, for example, when you're teaching fourth graders about the time zone difference, or just about where other countries are located, it's really nice for them to be for the kids to be on camera, say, what time is it there right now? It's 3 p.m. here in Detroit, Michigan. What time is it over in New Delhi? And the kids are shocked, oh, okay, so now I know that it's in the middle of the night when we're making this video for you.
Yeah,
So.
and you meant, and that's a great point that you hit on that I don't want to glaze over too much again too, is it's not a piece of technology that is going to change how we're teaching kids. It's curriculum, and then here's a tool that we can apply for that. And we've talked a lot with our previous guests that are employing some piece of technology. It's not, here's an app that's going to solve the educational problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you have a curriculum, you know how to teach, but here's a great way to make it more interactive and to bring the kids, like you said, those soft skills, those skills that are going to impact them, I would almost argue, more than remembering what the time zone difference is that I can Google now.
Yeah.
But being able to communicate very, very well with people. Because a lot of these kids are going to grow up and they're going to work with people they never meet. They're going to work with people from 4 or 5 different countries on huge projects, and then possibly maybe meet them in person one day, which is pretty cool to think about. Let's talk about obstacles to getting this off the ground, because you had 4?
4 other students, yeah.
So the 5 of you come up with this idea, put it into place. Obstacles on the U.S. side, and then what are the obstacles that you've seen in the schools going with in India?
Okay, I think the first obstacle is just figuring out what exactly we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We had this original idea of a projector for the classroom, but then we started doing a bit more research, and it became clear we're not the first guys to think of a projector for the developing world classroom. And the challenge was finding a way to do it that was different than what previous people had tried, because the issue with bringing technology into the developing world is it's famously been quite a big failure. It started with 1 laptop per child.
I remember that program.
That was a
Is that the $100 laptop or something?
Yeah, that was the goal, and it's widely regarded as a failure because classrooms would get the laptops, and then, as I said, there's a novelty factor, and the students would use it, but after a few weeks or a few months, it would be collecting dust on the shelves.
Yeah.
So the focus has really moved away from just airdropping technology, and that was a big challenge for us, figuring out how we can make sure that we're working with teachers who are using the box and do get the most out of the box. Because if it's not working for the teachers, then it's a waste of their time. It's a waste of bringing the technology into the classroom. I think that was the biggest challenge on the India side and the developing world side. In terms of the US, it was, I think, just formulating what we wanted with this video Penpal program idea, because it's not a new idea. Penpals, I had a letter Penpal when I was in school, and it's something that for us, it was really about figuring out what was special about what the program we were building. And it wasn't that we just wanted kids talking over video. It was we wanted to make kids that were not going to talk ever if it wasn't for the program talking over video. So it was making conversations that can't happen come alive, and developing that and integrating it with what we had with the box. And I think the last big challenge that this transitions to is how to make it all sustainable and how to really turn this from just an idea to something that's a sustainable business. And that's where our sponsorship model came in. And basically, in terms of how we support all our costs and getting the box in India is we leverage the resources that our U.S. classrooms have and their access to funds, grants, to fund the box for their partner classroom.
Okay, cool.
So in a sense, it's the U.S. classroom gets a benefit of this wonderful interaction, and so does the Indian classroom. But on top of that, the Indian classroom also gets this wonderful tool that when they're not using it for the Penpal program, they can use it for any digital content for their classroom.
That's pretty. I like the idea of a sponsorship program. I think, like we talk about that social responsibility that we have as educators and as people in education to look out not just for our school building and our district, but really the world. Maybe because we have students everywhere and they're all going to be interacting in the future. So it's awesome to see those ties. So we've ramped up. We've done well. You've gotten into class. I keep saying we, like I've been a part of this. I've done so well to get this going. Let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter program, because you've had great success with this. And when we talk about moving forward, it's not free to do this type of stuff and to bring these tools to kids. So let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter and how that's going.
Yeah, so we started our Kickstarter 29 days ago.
Okay.
And our goal was $40,000 in 30 days. And right now we are at $34,000.
That's really good.
So it's getting right to the wire, and we're hoping to raise the remaining funds by Sunday morning, I think.
Okay.
And so in terms of why we launched the Kickstarter, it's really to take ourselves from this hand-built prototype that we developed last summer to a scalable bright orange box.
Okay.
So we've switched from something running off the Raspberry Pi, your hacker toolkit.
Is that what it ran off of originally?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I never thought about asking that. That's really, I had a few students who built some Raspberry Pi, so that's cool to see a use like that.
It's your best do-it-yourself device there is. So we're moving away from the Raspberry Pi and the Linux system over to an Android-based platform.
Oh, awesome.
And it's great because we've got a brighter projector that's going to be even fine with daylight in the classroom.
Cool.
It's got a nice 7-inch touchscreen on top now. So, originally we had a 2-inch Raspberry Pi touchscreen, but now with that and with Android, it's going to be really easy for the teachers to get the same experience as teachers in the U.S. get. Because, when teachers in the U.S. record a video for the Penpal program, they do it through our app, and that makes it really easy for them. It's one-click upload. But for the classrooms in India, with this new device, we have got the same exact experience. So
that's cool.
In a sense, it's kind of like leveling the playing field on both sides. You have two teachers with the exact same experience despite being in completely different environments.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about this box, and we're going to be building 75 of them.
Wow.
50 of them will be for classrooms in India that will be connecting with 50 classrooms in the U.S. Starting this September. And then we're also going to be doing some interesting pilots with just the device.
Oh,
and that's going to be our first real venture outside of the classroom and outside of traditional education.
So the orange box is an Android. So basically, it's almost an Android phone as big as an iPhone 6 Plus.
It's bigger.
I'm an iPhone guy, by the way.
It's more like it's more like an Android tablet experience with the external projector. And
so Google should donate to your Kickstarter.
Yes, Google. We're waiting from Google's pledge.
I know so many people. I'll make a call. I don't. So what is this next adventure? So 50 classrooms. Are the classrooms already set up? Have you already?
A lot of them are. We've got the majority
great.
of classrooms on board, but we are still looking for some more classrooms.
Okay.
So, if you're a teacher or an administrator who wants to just test out this program and just, see what it's like to connect your students with students in India, then, you can definitely get in touch with us. And especially, I want to emphasize that we really want to work with teachers in Northeast Ohio because
Cool.
This is where the idea was really born, and this is where we're going to be headquartered after graduating in May. So we have a strong connection with the area, and I think there's a great need for more diversity in the classrooms in Northeast Ohio, and
I agree with that,
this is a great way to do it.
What I have to ask, because I totally forgot, what are your majors in college? Since are all of you graduating?
Yes.
Class? Okay.
Yes. We got a good diversity. I'm doing econ and math.
Okay.
Thomas, who I mentioned earlier, is a physics major, and then we also have a creative writing major on the team.
So cool.
A biochemistry major, and and politics as well. So it's quite. It's nice because I think we all bring a different perspective onto the team, and it's great for brainstorming. It's great for just having a diverse skill set on hand. So.
Well, that's why it's cool to see that you're not like all education majors, or you weren't tech majors.
None of us are education majors, which is
because I'm a guy sitting here with history degrees, and I'm doing technology pretty much. Full
Yeah.
time now. So that's cool to see how, like you said, you bring those creativities and those different things in. So 50 classrooms. You also mentioned that there's going to be about 20, 25 boxes that you're going to do some other things with. Are you thinking business world? What other kind of connections are you thinking about making with those?
Those boxes are going to be for development NGOs. So
okay.
What I mean by that is we want to test applications for education, but not traditional education in the classroom. Think about like healthcare education for rural communities. One of the pilots we will be doing is in Ghana, and we'll be working with NGO over there to help their aid workers teach best prevention techniques for malaria. So these are workers that are going around to the villages and handing out nets, but that's just one aspect of it. You can hand out the nets, but it's really about making sure people are aware why you have to use it, how you use it, and why it's important. So that's it's to do that you need to be someone who is an expert or someone who really knows how to teach it. But when you have access to a device that you can show a video of someone putting a net around without having to physically do it, it's a great resource to have for those aid workers.
How did that come up? I mean, that's an amazing jump from the idea of connecting students. They're both so huge on the impact they can make, but how did that idea come up?
It just came up through conversations with people who just liked what we were doing. And a lot of the time what would happen would be like, we'd be like, hey, we have this box, we do this amazing program, and they'd be like, whoa, like, can I use the box for this? And we think about it, and sometimes it's a no, but oftentimes it's like, wow, we didn't think of that. But I think the technology that we're building now is versatile enough that there's going to be a wide range of applications, and as long as we can get it off the ground, as long as we can keep testing these new ideas, I think there's a lot of different directions we can take it.
Well, that's really awesome. It's good to know that you guys are staying diverse and looking at this tool in all of its aspects and all the things it can do. No one likes a single function device anymore, right? Like, find someone with a watch that just tells time. It's not going to happen. As of today, it's not going to happen anymore. I think, right? Yeah. If you ordered your Apple Watch within 1.6 seconds, 4 days ago, you probably got one today. So next year looks really busy. That's awesome that you got things underway and going, and you're staying here in Northeast Ohio. We're looking for Northeast Ohio classrooms, by the way, so you'll notice my Twitter feed will blow up with things out to people. So anything else, anything I missed that you want to make sure we talk about before we get to the big final questions?
No, I think we've covered our bases here.
Cool, yeah, because there's so much going on. I'm going to keep your contact information up in the background here as we finish this off, but I always ask the same 5 questions to everyone that comes in because I stole that from, James Lipton in the Actors Guild studio, so I'm not going to lie, stole this idea. So what's one thing that you would change immediately in education?
I would add a global learning component to every classroom.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just because we have this Penpal program running, but I think as we become more interconnected, social networks like Facebook, they've brought a lot of different people together, but that's only going to accelerate in the future. And it's more important than ever for our students to become global citizens. Like as you said, you're going to be working with people from 5 different countries in your workplace, and it's really important to understand the world beyond your own community, your own culture, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And for me, it's especially interesting because when I was in school in Bangladesh, I went to an international school, and there were students from over 50 countries.
Wow.
And it was a wonderful experience. It left me that much more empathetic, that much more aware of all these different cultures, and eventually led me to coming to school over here.
Yeah.
So for students here, for students back home, I think it's a universal challenge that if I was to pick one thing that every school can benefit from, I would say it's global learning.
Awesome. I love that, because you're right. And I always worry as a U.S. educator and being in classrooms that our students are getting a very narrow view of what it is really like in the world at large. And they get what they read on the news and from textbooks, like you said, but to really talk to another 7-year-old and to get that empathy going, I think is great. What's one thing that's working? What's one thing you would keep the same?
In education?
In education, yep.
One thing.
This is the hardest question, by the way.
This is definitely challenging. I think it's just the attention to education that there's been. It's recently, especially, I would say there's been a lot of focus on education technology, but as well as just the impact and measuring impact on education, especially in the developing world. It's been something that's really promising. Like when we've been working in India and over here as well, it's great to see the number of smart people in education, and a lot of these people are more experienced than us, and it's like you're not the only person trying to overcome the same challenges.
Yes.
And it's great to see all these teachers, all these organizations, all these funders, working towards the same goal of just improving our kids' ability to learn.
Yeah, you got to have a tribe of people. It gets very lonely out there if you don't communicate.
Yes.
You're right, you do feel like it's you against the world. What is one long-term career goal? Since you're going to be graduating and starting a career that already started, but what's one long-term goal?
I would say long-term, I would want to see our program become self-sustaining.
Oh,
so,
okay, cool.
Right now we're pumping a lot of money in to make this happen, and it is that's not something that you can keep up.
Yeah.
But to really make this a success and to really make, global learning possible for these classrooms, it needs to be something that can just happen with minimal resources going in. So long term, I want to see this be Penpal program happening without us having to throw money at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's no fun. And then even though the year's almost over, what's one goal? You might have already hit it for this school year or by the end of this school year. Graduation doesn't count.
I would say a successful Kickstarter campaign. We're so close. There's just, I think, 48 hours to go or something like that. And I think that would make this semester, in terms of, to be honest, I've been focusing a lot more on work with LumenEd than I have with schoolwork.
Yeah.
So my goal is definitely to see the Kickstarter succeed for LumenEd.
Okay, that'd be great. And then this is one that's always been asked. Best day so far in your career?
I would say the best day was when we were in India and building these boxes, and it kept getting delayed, and we kept having to tell our teachers, one more week. Ugh. On the 6th week of the delay, there's one moment when Thomas was working on the box, and all of a sudden, everything was just working. We had completed the box.
Yeah.
And that was a really special moment, because I think that summer when things were not going our way it was a low point. We were pulling in 11-hour work days trying to make it happen, but things were just not happening. And at one point it looked like the program wouldn't launch, and we would have nothing to show for it. And that moment when we just got the box working and played some random video to prove
Sure,
it
yeah.
is really special.
There's something amazing when you plug something in and it just works like it's supposed to.
Yes.
Because it doesn't
yeah.
even ever happen with technology. You can ask Dave or myself.
Especially building your own.
Yes, I know, and sitting in, and you were in an unfamiliar place because you were in India so it wasn't like you were at your house in your bedroom and you knew you could run down to Best Buy and
Yeah.
do something that way.
Yes.
So that's really cool stuff. We've been talking today with Prakash from LumenEd. I keep wanting to call him LumenEd. LumenEd. They do have a Kickstarter. I'll throw the links up so that hopefully we can get you overfunded. But I do appreciate you being here today and talking. I'll get this video edited down and put up and pushed out. I'd like to thank everyone that's been watching or that will watch. Feel free to contact myself or the contact information on the screen there so you can learn more about this program and hopefully get involved any way possible, especially with kids and bringing classrooms in. Again, I appreciate you being here today, and I appreciate everyone watching, and we will see you next time on the next episode of Innovators in Education.